Hi, and welcome to No Cover Comics. Today we're looking at Superman 276 from June of 1974. The story is by Elliot Maggin, and the art is by Curt Swan and Bob Oksner. Uh, this comic I bought back in 74 when I was 6 years old, and it was kind of a gimmick one with Superman fighting not really Captain Marvel or Shazam. We'll start the story with Willie Fawcett, who should really be Billy Batson, but Willie is Billy, and Fawcett is the name of the comics company that originally did Captain Marvel. So Willie's popped into Metropolis and he sees Superman, and he's a little confused because this is not his world. Willie, being a newsboy, decides to head for his office. When he gets on the bus, it's too more expensive than he's used to, and when he gets to the office, it's a completely different company. So Willie's starting to think that maybe he's gone to the future, but we know better. But before Willie can go into the Galaxy building to find out what happened to Wham TV, we get the stereotypical look up into the sky. It's a bird. It's a plane. It's Superman. And again, people talking about how even tourists come just to look for Superman. But at that time, Willie notices that Superman is chasing a crude delusion and he's being distracted. And the whole idea is that Superman's distracted away with the wizard so somebody can pull off a heist. Willie, seeing this and being a hero, he calls his magic word thunder, not Shazam, thunder. Really disappointed me as a kid. And he rubs his magic belt because in the 70s, magic accessories were all the rage. Had them all over the place. He turns into Captain Thunder. But something weird happens as he goes to attack the robbers. Ooh, an ad. Wow, Superfoes are here. Meglos. I had these as a kid. Almost all of them. Penguin was missing his nose, though. These things were awesome. They're back for sale again if you want to get them. They have them at your local Walmart. Oh, and the next page is an ad for 100-page comics, only 60 cents. You can take a look at this and see what DC was into at the time. Superman family, that was one of the few my mom would let me buy when it came to DC and Marvel were the family comics because they were the one that were more kid. I was only 6, but I would never get a Rock or a Young Love or the House of Mystery. Batman and the Metal Men, I think I actually had that one. And on with our story. As Captain Thunder swoops in, the robbers realize it isn't Superman, it's just a cheap imitation. But to their surprise, he starts helping them out. And we go back to Superman, where he is finally taking care of the lizard, and he starts to come back to help out. And that's when he realized that there's some costume strongman helping them out. And that's when they start to get into their first fight. Superman tells him to surrender and takes a kick to the face. As a result, he calls Captain Thunder fat, and Captain Thunder is surprised by the fact that Superman can take his best hit. So Superman blows him one in the stomach. But of course, Captain Thunder just throws that off. He takes a different tactic. He throws the truck into Superman's face, and while Superman can't see, he yells his magic word again, thunder, and changes back into Billy, who has no clue what was just going on. With Big Red gone, Superman sets down the armored car and goes after the helicopter to grab the rest of the robbers, while Willie decides that Superman could probably help him out with what his issue is since he has no clue what anything's going on. With the robbers dealt with, Superman goes back to his job as Clark Kent at a Galaxy building. And while he's there, Willie has found him because it's well known that Clark is a friend of Superman, and Willie wants to let him know about Captain Thunder. Here's where Willie tells Clark that him and Captain Thunder are the same person, and he tells him his origin. One one day, as an orphan, he was at a summer camp. He was sitting out in the woods while everybody else was sleeping in the tent, and he saw an owl, and he decided to chase it. They followed it through the woods, even though he knew he shouldn't have, until he comes upon a wall of solid rock. Here's our second ad break. Uh, this one's for action fish lure that swims on its own power. Never was much of a fisherman, so I didn't really care. Weren't that much. Then the next, I always love these ads. The next page is the one monster-sized monsters for $1. Learn karate, secret safe book, werewolf mask, the joy buzzer, weighted wrist, the skinhead wig, monster ghost, magic cards. Anybody ever have any of these as a kid? I always wanted to try to order one of these things. Never did. Did have a joy buzzer, but I didn't get it through comics. Back to the story. As Willie is facing the stone wall, all of a sudden it opens up for him. He goes inside. He should have been scared. He wasn't. When he gets inside, this is where a big change happens to the Shazam. Instead of Shazam, he meets Muroki, the last of the great medicine men of the Mohegan tribe. And they told him that he's a boy of great noble of spirit, who's noble of spirit, and he invested with the powers of the last of the great Mohegan shamans. And Willie Fawcett's at your boy. And now here's your magic belt buckle, which makes no sense. We're native. But with the magic word of thunder, his powers are the T, tornado, power, H, hair, speed, U, Ucas, bravery. That was an outstanding warrior chief of the Mohegan tribe. N, nature, wisdom. D, diamond, toughness. E, eagle, flight. And R, ram, tenacity. This is where his powers come from. When he rubs the magic belt buckle and says the letters that make the name Thunder, he changes into Captain Thunder. And just like with Shazam, as soon as he gets his power, the guy that gives him his power just pieces out, takes off as a spirit, leaving Captain Thunder to battle evil wherever it may appear. And that's exactly what Willie did. He used his persona of Captain Thunder to fight crime and injustice all over. But the last thing he remembers is fighting the Monster League of Evil. Now, this is totally different from the Shazam's Monster Society of Evil. These characters are more DC oriented. They have this group in DC, so I think that's why they use them instead of Shazam's actual ones. But during this battle, as he beats them and imprisons them, but as he leaves, they tell him they've secretly done something to him to make him never be the same. That's where we go back to Willie and Clark talking. And Willie thinks that he must have returned to the Earth in the future. But Clark tells him that there's never been a Captain Thunder on this planet, and that recently Captain Thunder's shown up as a villain. And that's when Willie figures out why he can't remember anything he's done as Captain Thunder. And that's when we get to the center page ad for Columbia Records. I've looked through some of these, and none of these are very good albums at all. There's a couple of good ones, but I don't think I'd picked any of them. Willie has figured out that the Monster League has turned Captain Thunder evil. He'll never be the same. And Clark's starting to think this kid is crazy. So they decided to go to the police station to see if anybody's reported Willie Fawcett missing. Lois is annoyed that Clark wants her to come along because she's a girl She thinks it's because she's a girl, whereas Clark's like, you write about human interest all the time. I thought this would be a good story. As they get to the police station, Clark's super hearing and X-ray vision shows him that they're having a jailbreak go on right now. So he quickly asks Willie the last time he ate something and uses that as an excuse to rush off to get food, one of his likely convenient runoffs. And while he's off, there's a bunch of commotion because the cops have realized that there's a breakout and people are going all over the place. So Willie, being a good kid, runs off to try to help by kicking Thunder. But the problem is, as soon as he turns into Captain Thunder, he goes evil again and he starts fighting Superman. Superman immediately realizes he can catch those crooks wherever they are, so they're not the immediate problem. That's Captain Thunder. So he flies out of Metropolis as fast as he can to keep the big fight from damaging anything in the city. He jumps into a cloud and has Captain Thunder follow after him. And as soon as he goes in, he freezes the cloud solid to turn it into a giant ice cube. But with the power of a tornado, Captain Thunder busts out, and with a hair-like speed, he grabs Superman by the leg and starts swinging him around. Next, we got an ad for a fighting game. I never really got these ads. I still don't know exactly what they are. I think you get a bunch of army men and a battlefield and some ships, depending on what you order, but I never could quite figure out this ad. Then we're back to an ad for comics again. This is a giant-sized ones. Always love these. Best of the Shazam. Pretty sure I had that one as a kid. And now we get into the meat of the fight, where Shazam's got Superman by the leg. He smashes him halfway through a mountain. Superman just uses heat vision to cut the rest of the mountain off, pick the mountain up, and toss it on to Captain Thunder. And then they slam into each other, and they start to realize that they're pretty evenly matched, and Superman needs to use his wits. They even have Captain Thunder call Superman a big blue cheese, which is a play on Shazam's nickname of the big red cheese, because he is super cheesy. But using Superman's intelligence, he decides to play with him a little bit. He creates his own little thunderbolt to hit Captain Thunder as a way to get him talking in this fight. And as they grab each other, right as Captain Thunder says Thunder, Superman makes him rub his belt and it turns him back into Willie. Catching Willie as he falls, Superman explains what happens. That's when he also tells Willie that he's figured out that since there's no regular Captain Thunder here, that he's most likely from a different Earth in a different dimension. They don't know which dimension it is, but they figure Captain Thunder can figure out by using his natural wisdom. The only problem is, as soon as he turns back into Captain Thunder, he's going to go evil. So Superman puts him in a hold to make sure he can't move, and he's going to force Captain Thunder to use his wisdom. With a blinding flash, he says Thunder and changes. And we get our last ad break. This one's for magic cards. These were always really cool. They weren't actual cards, though, so they didn't work very well for anything but the tricks. I don't think these are marked decks, which are kind of fun, too, if you've ever had a marked deck. And then the next page is another ad for DC Comics again. One actually for the one that we're reading up ahead. I actually think I had this Wonder Woman and Action Comics down in the bottom. Back to the action. Soups has got Thunder in a full Nelson, and neither one's budging. The strength is too small to measure difference. So eventually, Thunder starts thinking, and he figures out what he needs to do to get home. So Superman loosens up just enough for him to rub his beckle, say his magic word, and disappear, gone back to for whence he came. And in our epilogue, we had Clark and Lois going out to dinner for Clark to make up for ditching Lois earlier. So she makes him take him to a fancy restaurant. And Clark is thinking to himself about how he doesn't feel as alone now that he's found someone else like Superman with Captain Thunder, who champions the weak and the helpless for no other reason, just because it is right. And then Lois makes fun of Clark for putting ketchup on his prime steak. And that's Superman 276 from June of '74. I've had this book since I was 6, and it's missing its cover and actually first page now too, but I've reread this book so many times, being a huge Captain Marvel fan back in the day. Even though I thought this was kind of an insult to Captain Marvel with all the changes, but it's still a great story. It took years before I figured out the tagline on the cover, the story you thought we'd never dare to print, and the real meaning behind all of that. But the fact that the reason that Captain Marvel isn't around anymore is because DC killed them with suing them into bankruptcy and then turning around and grabbing up, well, Captain Thunder, because they couldn't own Captain Marvel anymore because Marvel grabbed that up. It also was kind of a letdown where it says the fight to decide superhero championship of the world, and it's a draw. And that's it for today. Thanks for watching. Hope you join me next time.